Welcome to Infinity Cast, where we explore the echoes of history. Today, we're traveling back to a time of profound fear and suspicion. Salem, Massachusetts, 1692. It's a name that conjures images of paranoia and persecution, the setting for one of America's most infamous chapters, the Salem Witch Trials. But what really happened? To help me unpack the complex roots of this hysteria, I'm joined by my co-host, Roy Vale.
Thanks, Elias. It's a chilling topic because it wasn't a supernatural event, it was a human one. The panic didn't appear out of thin air. It started quietly in the home of Reverend Samuel Parris, where his daughter Betty and niece Abigail Williams began exhibiting terrifying symptoms: uncontrollable screaming, strange contortions, throwing things. When medicine failed, the local doctor offered a diagnosis that would ignite a firestorm. The girls were under an evil hand. They were bewitched.
Exactly. And that diagnosis fell on fertile ground. You have to understand the world these people lived in. 17th century New England was a social tinderbox. They were contending with the aftermath of a brutal war with Native American tribes, a recent smallpox epidemic, and a new royal charter that they feared threatened their Puritan way of life. Add to that deep economic anxieties and factional strife between the rural Salem village and the more prosperous Salem town. There was a pervasive sense that their society, their city on a hill, was under siege from all sides.
And all sides explicitly included the devil. In the Puritan worldview, Satan was a real, tangible entity actively working to destroy them. So when misfortune struck, a failed crop, a sick child, it wasn't just bad luck, it was potentially a spiritual attack. This created a powerful psychological framework for interpreting the girls' behavior. Modern psychologists might look at the afflicted girls and see a classic case of conversion disorder or mass psychogenic illness, where profound stress manifests as physical symptoms.
It's a compelling lens. These were young women with virtually no power or voice in a strict patriarchal society. Suddenly, by becoming the victims of witchcraft, they became the center of the community's attention. Their words had the power of life and death. And when pressed to name their tormentors, the first people they identified were easy targets: Tituba, the Parris family's enslaved servant from the Caribbean; Sarah Good, a homeless beggar; and Sarah Osborne, an elderly woman who rarely attended church.
Right, social outcasts. But the key moment that validated the entire process was when Tituba, likely under duress, confessed. She didn't just confess, she spun a vivid tale of a satanic conspiracy in Salem, with other witches and a black book signed by the devil. Her confession was the proof the magistrates needed. It confirmed their worst fears and provided a narrative that the panic could latch on to.
And once that narrative was established, the accusations began to spiral. It was no longer just about outcasts. Respected church-going members of the community, like Rebecca Nurse, were accused. This is where the legal proceedings, if you can call them that, completely broke down, largely thanks to one key concept: spectral evidence.
Yes, spectral evidence was the fatal flaw. It was testimony from an accuser claiming that the defendant's spirit, or specter, had appeared to them and caused them harm. How do you defend against that? It's an invisible, supernatural crime. It's one person's word against another's. And in a courtroom gripped by fear, the accuser's hysterical testimony was treated as undeniable fact. It was a legal framework that made it impossible to prove one's innocence.
A perfect storm of social anxiety, religious fervor, and psychological contagion, all sanctioned by a legal system that accepted the unbelievable as evidence. By the time the hysteria subsided a year later, over 200 people had been accused, and 20 were executed.
It stands as a brutal, cautionary tale. Salem teaches us about the dangers of abandoning reason for fear, the fragility of justice in the face of mass hysteria, and what can happen when a community decides it's easier to find scapegoats than to confront its own anxieties.
A sobering lesson that still resonates today. Thank you for that insight, Roy. And thank you all for listening to Infinity Cast. Join us next time as we explore another echo from the past.